the re-entry journey. What would be one word to describe this journey?
Enriching.
Unapologeticness.
Elevating.
Resilience.
I say transformation.
Intentional.
Blessed.
Rebirth.
The re-entry journey, the re-entry journey, the re-entry journey, the re-entry journey. All right, man, we are back with another episode of the re-entry journey. I am your host, Kardell Sims. You know, like the intro song says, we are going to make it tonight. Our guest is here to join us, telling her story. 26 years of incarceration. Woo! I can only imagine the what was going through, get prepared for her release. She got out, wrote a book while on the inside, publishing that, and she's getting out, and she's on the right track to do some amazing thing. I'd like to welcome to the floor tonight our guest on the reentry journey, Miss Cheryl Armstrong. How are you doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
All right, so 26 years incarceration. The floor is yours. Go ahead and tell your story.
All right, so I'll start with when I was 16 years old and my crime happened. I was wild, out of control kid, got involved with a lot of things I shouldn't have been into. I was using drugs, quit going to school, doing every wrong thing I could be doing. It just kind of kept snowballing. I had been in a relationship, long story short, that ended. We kind of were going our separate ways. There had been a beef between one of my victims and my friends. We ended up driving to his house one night. They shot and killed him and the other person that was in the house. So we were charged as adults. I'm from Colorado. That's where my crime happened. I drove the getaway car. They tried me for first-degree murder, found me guilty of 2 counts second-degree murder. They gave me 96 years.
Whoa, hold on, time out. Hold on. They gave you 96 years?
Yeah.
When they gave you 96 years, what was the emotions and feelings like once you heard that?
Well, I think that at a certain point, even before I went to my trial, it was so emotionally traumatizing for me, what I had done, where I was sitting. I could not cope with it all. So looking back, I basically kind of shut down and just went emotionally numb. That was the only way I knew how to survive it. Right. You know, so when they gave me 96 years, I mean, I was devastated, but I was so broken and numb and miserable. You know, there were times I felt like I obviously wanted to not survive the whole thing. You know, it took me a number of years to even really start processing the severity of what had happened and the lives we destroyed. So it was just a lot.
Because like you said, you was 16 at the time this occurred. So you're still a child.
Right. So, you know, they say that your brain doesn't finish developing until you're about 25. So the last 8 years of that for me was spent in prison.
Oh, wow.
Not good. It was all bad.
So you were in prison and you got all this time. How are you moving in prison?
So I get to prison. I'm 17 by the time I get there. And they just throw you in. You know, they don't keep you separated. I think maybe they do now. I think a lot of laws have changed over the, you know, last maybe 10 years or so, but it's different everywhere. But back then they just threw you in.
And that's how it was in Missouri too. Like they actually had like a juvenile camp prison on the outside of a prison. So as soon as you turn 17, they walk you right in to the adult prison, and then there you go.
Yeah. So, you know, I always tell people prison was a lot different back then in the mid 90s than it is now.
Oh, yeah.
There was no reentry. There was no positivity really of any sort back then. It was a lot different. There was more violence, more drugs, more drama. And so I just fell right into that and kind of became, I became, all of the worst things you could be in there, really, for a number of years, because I had no hope in the beginning.
Mm. And that's crazy you said that, because I understand where you're coming from, because when I first went to prison, I got sentenced to 19 years. And when I walked in this prison, it had a sign that said, "Leave your dreams and hopes behind." And
Wow.
so that's exactly what I did. So when I went to prison, I'm like 19 years, I got some time here. So I'm just going to just do what I'm a jail. I'm a be it. I'm gonna get involved in everything that's happening, because I'm 19 years. And then the sign said, "Leave your dreams and hopes behind." So I most definitely can understand where you was at when you went in. And like you said, you just got in the mix, really.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a bad scene. And I didn't really get, like, I wasn't in the hole all the time and I wasn't fighting all the time, but I was hateful, and I treated people bad, and, I had a more than enough
That's
trauma in
right. I
my life.
mean, you went in there with 96 years. I mean, what mentality can you possibly not have going in? I mean, I'm going in there 19 years. I was mad at the world, so
Oh
I can
yeah.
only imagine going in there with 96 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I was not in a good place, and everybody knew it. I definitely treated people really bad, including my own family, everybody, not just people in prison. I was really a miserable person when I was in my teens, through a lot of my 20s even. It took me a long time to come up out of that.
And why do you think, what was causing you to be that miserable person?
I still sometimes try to figure out all the pieces of that, but I grew up with my brothers were all violent guys. My dad
Mm,
was. So I had a lot of that type of energy around me, and I kind of put them on a pedestal. It was kind of glorified to me. And
right.
so I thought that was the way to be. And then I get to prison, and I kind of gravitated toward the same type of people, and I was that type of person too. And so I don't know. I think that obviously after I got to prison, my misery was coming from my prison sentence, and just not having any hope, and thinking, man, I cannot believe this is it. Like I felt like I was going to die there. I'd be there for the rest of my life. And so I didn't really care about too much in those first years.
And so when did you start? When did that hope start coming in, or kicking in, and you start caring?
So it was probably in my mid 20s. And I think that one of the things that happened for me is I was just drained, like putting that much negative energy out there every day in and day out, year after year. Like I just didn't have the energy to be that anymore. And that's really not the person I was raised to be. I had a decent family growing up. I didn't have a bad childhood. So, um, I was tired of living like that. And I met a couple people in there that kind of started to have a really good influence on me, and kind of presented life to me from a different perspective. And one of them was a lifer. She ended up beating her case and she's been out. But I remember her telling me, like, even if I have to wake up in prison every day for the rest of my life, like, I'm going to make the most out of that, and that was a big deal to me. It was just like a paradigm shifting moment. And I was thinking, if she could do that, I could do that. So she really inspired me to kind of want to start doing something different and better. And my education that I got in there is probably the biggest thing that really like changed my character.
Okay. And when you say education, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So that started, my mom was like, why don't you do something with positive with your time in there? So she wanted me to take some college courses, and she said she'd pay for them. And I write about this in my book. And I took a couple classes and didn't finish them on time, didn't apply myself, because I was doing them for the wrong reasons. I was doing them because she wanted me to, not because I wanted to. And then about, I don't know, maybe 2 years later after that, they started bringing college classes into the prison. And I started taking them with one of the friend I was just talking about. She and I started taking college classes together, and sure enough, like I was getting straight A's, and I thought, yeah, maybe there's something to this. It kind of gave me a sense of self-worth, an identity. It made me feel like maybe there was some hope for something positive in that ugly, dark place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of grabbed onto that, and I just never looked back. And so the college classes, like I wasn't getting in trouble. I was kind of doing the right thing with all that, but I still was really dark inside. I just wasn't happy. And so as I started through my education journey, another one of my friends kind of noticed a little bit of shifts in me. She's like, I think that this for you, it isn't just about getting an education, because what was I really going to do with it, right? I was going to be in prison forever. And so it kind of just became about, all right, let me use this as a tool to become a better person, start living with some integrity, have some goals, some values, something to strive for, to just be better. And so I just started chipping away at it and working on my character, and it was a struggle, and a long one. We're talking like 15 years, and I'm still working on stuff. So, I always will be.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so, you start working on self, and when did it come to where it was to the point where what I'm going to do once I get released? Because I feel like I got all day, but a release is coming. So how do I start preparing for that?
So what was going on in the court systems is that the United States Supreme Court kept making these rulings over a period of probably 10 years. I think the first one was around 2005. So they said, oh, you can't give the death penalty to juveniles. And then it was, oh, you can't give mandatory life without parole sentences, right? So on and so forth. So these rulings kept coming down, and the states are having to come into compliance with these federal laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a part of what was giving me hope. And then I filed an appeal under one of those U.S. Supreme Court cases. 5-year-long appeal process, and I ended up losing in the end, which was a little devastating. But it was giving me hope, because everybody was just like, oh yeah, you're going to get back in court, and we're going to get your sentence reduced. And at that point I had my bachelor's degree, and I was still doing the college thing. And I was like, you know what, if the day ever comes that I have a chance to walk out, I'm going to be ready, And so I didn't really waste much time at all anymore. I was super focused, crazy self-discipline. No matter what other nonsense I might have going on in my life, I always stayed focused on my education and not getting write-ups. I wanted to make sure that when my little one chance came, if it ever did, that there wouldn't be anything that they could hold against me to tell me, not I'll let you out.
Right.
And so
and that's crazy. I'm glad you said that, because I know someone right now. She got someone that's incarcerated. I think he's almost 30 years he's been incarcerated. And he's been going up every year for the past 5 or 6 years. And they just keep come back next year. They just keep giving him a year setback. You don't know why. None of that. And
that's how they used to do it in Colorado too, pretty much for any violent crime, but they've kind of steered away from that now. And a lot more people are getting out there first time. So I'm grateful to see that change happening, at least where I come from,
Right. And it's another guy, I think he just hit the light. His name is Joseph Langdon, and he knows a lot of people as well that they're sitting waiting on that opportunity, because they've been incarcerated since they was a juvenile.
Yeah.
As well. And while we're on that topic,
yeah,
how do you feel about those that say that go against, the laws and stuff that helped you get out?
How do I feel about them? Well, I mean, I understand anybody who has lost someone to a violent crime, they're most likely going to feel like that. I've met a few people that don't, though, that have forgiven the person that killed their child or their family member. And I had a chance to talk with one of my victim's cousins, and there was forgiveness between him and I. And so that's always a beautiful thing. But I know that doesn't happen as much as I'd like to see it happen. So, I mean, I get it, but the other side of that is you're talking about the adolescent brain development and the science behind, not having that ability to foresee the future and make those good choices, because your brain just hasn't formed that part yet, and so I definitely think that there should be punishment for crimes like mine. Absolutely. You know, I deserve to go to prison, but I don't think that the severity of the sentences that have been handed out to kids that are 15, 16, 17, I don't agree with that, you know, and not just because it happened to me. I don't think that's right. I think that as you grow into adulthood, 9 times out of 10, I'm sure that individual, if you release them, they're not going to reoffend. They're not going to commit another violent crime. And that's what I've seen with all of the people that I've known who've been released for crimes like that. So,
Right. And I most definitely agree. So when did you find out that, you know, you will be released? When did you find out, okay, you're getting that opportunity?
So part of the process of what was going on in Colorado is there were some smaller organizations, and every year they were trying to go to the legislature and they were trying to get a bill passed to get, you know, the sentencing laws changed, and they failed for, I couldn't even tell you how many years. It was really stressful. Every year we were going through this, having that hope, and then it was shot down. So after the most recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling came down, they finally got the support that they were going to be able to get something passed. And so basically Colorado's way of coming into compliance with those U.S. Supreme Court rulings, they passed 2 different laws. One of them pertained just to the juveniles that had life without parole. And then the second bill applied to me, thank God, because technically it didn't have to, right? I didn't have a life sentence, which is what all these U.S. Supreme Court cases are about. They're about life without parole. So I was really blessed that a crime, my sentence fell into this bill where I was eligible. So what they did is the Department of Corrections created a 3-year program called Jcap, which stands for Juveniles Convicted as Adults Program. So the deal was, if you were a lifer, you go back and you get resentenced under that second bill that had passed. So you kind of shook off that life without parole label, and then you were eligible to apply for Jcap. Well, I got to apply right away, and there was all kinds of criteria. If you had first degree, you had to wait for 25 years. With second degree, you could do it after 20. I was eligible right away. I was one of the first people in the program.
Oh, wow.
So I did this 3-year program, and it's like a reentry program. And, you know, they're teaching you some things that were a little elementary for me about, like, you know, how to set goals, a lot of life skill stuff. I got to learn how to do some cooking. That was really cool. So they tried to cover all the things, you know, that we would be facing when we walk back out into a world we don't recognize, right? Because you've done that much time. You've never talked on the cell phone, been on the internet, none of that. So
Exactly.
yeah, it was a lot. So at the end of that 3 years, which for me was October of last year, I was able to petition for early release. And so what happened was it was myself and I believe 8 men. And we all asked for early parole. I was asking for parole 15 years sooner than I would have been had this program not been created. So it was a huge deal.
Oh, wow.
Highly stressful, right? Wondering if they're going to let me go or not. Nobody really knew what was going to happen if they said, no, we're not letting you out. Like, how long did we have to wait to ask for parole again? Like, it was all just so new. Nobody really knew what was going on with all that. So we waited so I saw the parole board. I had a meeting with a member on the board, and she told me herself it was set up very differently from the usual hearings that they do. They really took into consideration our age when the crime happened. They wanted to know everything about what I had done while I was in prison. So I had a lot of opportunity to really break down who I was, who I'd become in there. So I was grateful for that. So basically after the hearing, it took them 4 months to make a decision. And the governor was the one that made the final decision. So the board would make a recommendation to the governor, and then he could say yes or no. And so basically one day they called me over to the admin building during count time. And I was like, oh man, that's never good, you know?
Right. Count time. Come on out of there.
Yeah. So they sat me down and they had me waiting there forever. Well, we ended up doing like a Zoom call. And the first thing that popped up was all the guys that were at the men's facility that were in the program with me. And I knew, I was like, well, we're getting our answer. And I was thinking, oh, that's messed up. They're going to tell some of us we're going home and some of us were not. Because none of us, I don't think I know I didn't believe that the governor would parole all of us across the board. And sure enough, they had the head of the parole board on there, some people from the headquarters of DOC, and she said, "You are all going home." So, yeah.
And when she said that, what
I was sobbing.
what went through your body?
I just cried. I cried. I couldn't even speak. I was just crying. I was just so overcome with gratitude. It was so emotional.
Man, I got woo.
It was a big deal.
Now they like, you going home. So what's on your mind? Like, I'm going home.
I was ready. I was ready to go home because I've become a pretty optimistic person with all these years of working on changing how I think about stuff. And I had kept telling my mom, I was like, I'm coming home. Like, we got to be ready, So, and I had spent years preparing for what I wanted my life to look like if I ever got my shot. So I felt like I was ready. I'd been saving money, I was done with my education. I got my master's degree. I'd written my book. I had my goals lined up. But I had to wait longer to get out. All the guys got to leave like 2 weeks later. They let them out right away. And I was the only one leaving the state. So mine took just a couple weeks longer, though, because there was a couple people behind the scenes, staff-wise, that kind of had my back and kind of pushed it forward. So I left. I got out shortly after the guys did.
Right.
Came down here
so you say you was ready, but when you got out, was you ready for the way the world was?
Yes and no. This city that I moved to is huge. And so some of the things I thought would challenge me didn't. I'm not used to being around people, even in prison, I had a really small circle of people. I didn't really mess with a lot of people. And so I thought that would be something that would, give me bad anxiety. And I'm good with the people. That hasn't bothered me at all. But I was insecure about little things like going to get gas. I've never had a debit card or a credit card. Right. So I had no idea what to do with them. I'm like, well, I didn't even know where to put the dang thing in at. So I'm like, well, how do I scan this? So I just felt it made me feel stupid because I've just never done it before. So when I'd go to the store with someone in my family, I'd be like, you got to do this, because I wanted to watch them and learn what they were doing. Just those little things like that, which now, I'm good with all that. And then my nephew gave me an iPhone.
I was about to say, it wasn't no Facebook and none of that back then either as well.
None of that. I didn't even think about Facebook till one of my friends was like, you on Facebook yet? And I was like, oh, I should go check it out, Woo, I wasn't ready for that either. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
A lot going on. And a lot of times when I go back in and I'm doing a reentry coaching, I always tell people when they get out, especially when you've done a long time, it's just as far as your phone, just learn one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Learn how to text for a week. Once you get the texting down, go to something else. But don't get out and try to learn everything in 1 week. You get frustrated. You lose your mind out here because it's too much going on.
It's true. And my nephew, him and my ex-sister-in-law came down with me the first 5 days I was out. Thank God. They took me around and got me everything I needed, got me hooked up with my ID. They just were so helpful. And he's teaching me how to use this phone and set up all my stuff. And I finally, he gave me a headache. I was like, look, dude, I don't even know what you're saying. Like, you're doing too much.
Right.
Bring it back a little bit. One thing at a time.
Yeah. I mean, this one guy I had as a guest, he said, he had, I think it was like 22, 23 years when he got out. He said the thing was, first place he had to use the restroom. So he went into a Walmart and he wouldn't use the restroom, they got the automatic. He said when he was using the restroom, he was like, man, he was looking around for the hand there.
I went through that on the drive down here. And it kind of scared me because I wasn't ready for it. Yeah.
And a lot of people that's never been to prison are getting out they take for granted just them little things like that.
Oh yeah.
Because it just comes so. But when you come out of prison, you're just like, man, what is this? What is a? I mean, I got out there like, yeah, man, you got to get Snapchat and oh man, what is a Snapchat? What is a TikTok? What is
Yeah.
going on out here? I said, man, look, I'm just gonna be comfortable with with Facebook, and then I move to Instagram.
I'm
I,
on Instagram, but I don't really know what to do with it.
yeah, and so what? So you get out and you confident, you ready. But
Yeah.
when you're ready, you can be confident. Because when I got out this last time, I was ready, so I was highly confident. I got out and I just went straight to the plans that I had.
Mhm.
So when you got out and you're back into society, it for you? Is it go time? Like some people say, I'm going to wait 2-3 weeks before I get started on stuff. Other people they get right to it. What was it like for you?
Well, it's a little different for me as far as the job thing goes. So I'm living with my mom and my stepdad. And I had, like I said, I had some money saved up and I have a good support system. So I was all right financially when I walked out, right? So I just got a job. I just got a job. But the reason why is because two things. When I'm on a mission to do something, I'm going to do it. You know, that I'm disciplined like that. And I believe that I can manifest whatever I want in my life. And so I try to stay positive and focused on what I'm trying to make happen. So I wanted to get my book published. That was a big thing for me, you know. I just thought that it was important because it's a book that can help other people, you know, and I want to market it to prisons and, you know, reentry centers, and anybody that's broken in any type of way could benefit from this book, I think, in some part of it. So it was important to me. So I had to I wrote the whole thing in prison with pencil, first of all. So I had to retype the whole book into a computer.
What was that? What was that experience like?
I mean, you know, I've been on a computer in prison, so I'm not completely retarded when it comes to that stuff. I was all right with it, but you know, it was time consuming. So I
That's
really
what I'm about
wanted
to
to
say.
make
Put that
sure.
time in.
Yeah, I had to put the time in, and so that was something that I was focused on. And then, listen, I don't knock anybody for anything they do to make money legally, you know, but I'm not. I would be a terrible waitress. So I was just not the kind of girl that was going to go jump out there and do something like that because I would have really sucked at it. And I knew that I kind of had a different path I wanted to follow. So I kept not getting a job, not getting a job. Then I applied to work at Amazon. They wouldn't hire me because I had a violent crime. Applied at a few other places, never heard anything. So I was like, man, this is a drag. So my parole officer that I have down here, she's really fantastic. And I'm grateful for that for sure. She was the one, when I had gone to the orientation down here, she said, you know, I got introduced to being a peer support specialist. I didn't really know nothing about that. So I thought, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. That's something that I would want to do for a job. You know, it's not the greatest pay, but it's a job, and I want to help people. And yeah, and I just really try to be strategic with the choices I'm making because I want to know that at the end of the day, everything that I'm doing matters. You know, and I want to help other people the best that I can after all the damage I've caused to people in my past. You know, I just feel like it's the right way to live. It's important to me now, especially now that I've been given this second chance, you know, and I'm actually out here. So long story short, I took a 7-week class. I got certified to be a peer support specialist. And then they wanted to keep me on at their organization. It's a great place. It's called ALOCS, another level of community service. And so I was doing an internship there because I was going to end up being a peer support facilitator there. And then all of a sudden, everything just shifted, like not even 2 full weeks ago. I started applying for these other peer support jobs all around the city. And I got an interview at a place called RI International, stands for Recovery Innovations. So it's a crisis center. I got an interview with them. So I go in, had a great interview. I'm always nervous. Like, are they going to give me a shot? Because I have a violent crime. I'm on parole. How's this going to play out for me? You know? So I'm applying at other jobs, had another interview. Well, RI International ended up hiring me, and they didn't even hire me as a peer support specialist. They hired me as a behavioral health technician. So yeah, that's a little it's a little better, I think. So I'm like a level up from the peer support. So I'm going to be learning how to do like psychosocial assessments and all this crazy behavioral health stuff. And didn't really see myself taking this turn, but I'm learning all kinds of stuff. I've been in training for like 8 hours a day the last week. And then today I finally finished my training. So I'm going to start on the units tomorrow. But, you know, they have like court-ordered petition people that come into this facility. And so there's a lot going on there. It's a serious job. So that's what I'm doing right now. And then my book, I'm trying to promote my book and my business still because I want to be a public speaker. That's the ultimate goal.
Well, congratulations first on that job. That I mean, and coming out and being able to get that opportunity, and on top of the fact that you know somebody actually gave you a chance, gave you the opportunity. You know, they didn't use your background against you, and then you got a better position than what you applied for. So, man, that's a plus.
Yeah, it is.
Let's talk about the book. What's the name of the book?
Plant Your Energy, Face Your Demons, and Transform Your Life.
Do you want to go tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. It's basically kind of maps out my journey of self-transformation, right? So I kind of write like I talk. And so I just kind of wrote about all of the things that I did to turn my life around. So I talk about, you know, getting real with yourself and facing your demons. What are your demons? What do those look like? They're different for everybody, right? Once you figure out what they are, what do you do, right? So I talk about you need to own your shit and take responsibility for the mistakes you've made and figure out what you need to let go of from your past. Even when we're talking about any type of abuse or whatever that's holding you back from being a better version of you, and just kind of owning what belongs to you and letting go of what doesn't, and planting new seeds, reprogramming the way you think, looking at what your triggers are. What are your paradigms in life? Are they actually your paradigms, or were they taught to you by somebody else? Just evaluating everything that's going on in your heart and in your mind, and trying to figure out how you can shed all the negative aspects of your character and replace those with something more positive and beneficial for your life, you know? And then at the end of the book, I talk about basically giving it all back in whatever, you know, however that looks to each individual.
Service. That's what I always talk about. That service is the main thing once you get out, to be able to give back. So if somebody was getting out tomorrow and they just some reason they got on YouTube, they ran across this reentry journey interview with you, and if you had one thing that you could tell them, they just got out, what would it be?
One thing, just take it one day at a time. You know, don't get overwhelmed with the big picture. Just focus on what's in front of you, you know, and make sure you always remind yourself that you can do it. You know, we have the strength within us. You just have to, sometimes you got to dig a little deeper, but you know, and there's support out there. There's people that want to help people that are coming out. And I'm one of those people now. So, you know, I'll never forget where I've been and what I've gone through. And I definitely want to help people that are coming out and struggling, you know?
Right. Most definitely. Up to this point, it's been a journey for you.
Yeah.
One word to describe this journey, what would it be and why?
Transformational. And I feel like that's, in my case, for pretty obvious reasons. For the, you know, if you didn't know me, maybe not so obvious, but if you knew me back in the day, it's like you wouldn't even recognize me now from who I was then. So I definitely worked really hard. And like I said, I'm still working, you know, I'm always going to be working, but to have made changes like that in prison when I had no hope of getting out, that's why I say transformational.
So when can we expect the book? When is the book going to be released?
The book's out. It's available.
The book is out.
It's out.
Where's it available? You gotta let us know where it's at. Where can we pick the book up at?
On Amazon. It's on Amazon. That's what I just send everybody there. You can get it on Barnes and Noble, and there's a couple other smaller places, but everybody uses Amazon. So that's what I
Right.
just always say.
And what's the name of the book again? So we can put it in the chat.
Is Plant Your Energy, Face Your Demons, and Transform Your Life. Yeah, it launched about 4 weeks ago.
Mm. And have you gotten any reviews?
Yeah, there's a handful, and I have an international bestseller badge on the front of that bad boy now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you making your move up there. Yeah, the bestseller. I'm 6 books in, and I ain't got no bestseller tag, no bestseller tag on there. I'm gonna have to find out. I'm gonna have to find the key to that. How did you make that one happen? Yeah,
I had a good publishing company,
okay.
A good network. I think a lot of it has to do with my network and just people supporting me and buying the book right away.
Right.
Spreading the word.
And the name of the book again is Plant Your Energy, Face Your Demons, and Change Your Life.
And Transform Your Life.
Transform Your Life?
Yes.
Yeah, make sure y'all go to Amazon to get that.
Please.
And so what's next for Miss Cheryl Armstrong? What's next for you?
Well, I'm going to write my next book, which is going to be my story.
Okay.
Everything we've been talking about. And then I'm going to stick with this job that I have while I try to start getting into public speaking and marketing my book that's out now. I really want to go around. I'm going to get ready to do like a PowerPoint. I want to put together a presentation, get some visual aids to go, so when I could be prepared whenever I start going speaking places. But I'm already being invited to go back up to Colorado. They want me to come in and speak up there. So I'll probably end up going up there at some point, and I'll go into prisons and talk to people. I'm down for whatever.
Have you took any type of public speaking courses or anything?
Nothing official. No.
Nothing official. Yeah. I mean, congratulations. I know the journey you on because, coming out, we had the same journey. I was just like you when I got out. I just wasn't settling just for any job. Like the jobs that I got, I made sure that they were towards my strengths. It was geared towards my strengths, and I'm a people person as well. So I got job in marketing and promoting, telemarketing, and things like that. And then I started my own company, and then I had my books. I was selling my books. I was setting up my own public speaking events and selling my books there. Like the books, I would do it for free, the events, but I would make money off my books and T-shirts. And then I just started grinding and went from one book to 2 books, and then I wrote this book called Inmate to Inspiration, which was basically my story, and it just opened up a lot of doors.
Nice.
Getting back in prisons. That was one of the things that was one thing. One of my main goals was when I get out, and this is crazy how I said it, but I'm serious about it. So when I get out, I want to successfully, because I've been dealing with probation, prison, and parole since the year 2000. This was 2017. I'm like, when I get out, I never made it. I know I'm going to walk it down. I'm ready. I said, when I get out, I walk it down. I'm going to come back in prison, and I'm going to get a blueprint to how you get out and stay out. And I said, and I'm going to make them pay me to do it. I'm gonna get my money back. And that's been my mission, and I reached that mission, And the crazy part is, man, it's just sometimes I overlook sometimes the payment because I'm going back in. I know what we're giving, what we have to offer, is going to save a lot of people's lives.
I hope so. I believe that too. Yeah. And the other thing I didn't mention to you is that I have a small business called Plant Your Energy, which is what the book is kind of behind. So my website is plantyourenergy.life. And when you said something about T-shirts, that's what made me think about it, because that's what I started the business as. I was selling T-shirts on there. And I have a little blog page too. So when I was still in prison, I love quotes. So I would quotes, and then I would write about the quote. And then I was having my website guy post a blog for me every 2 weeks while I was still inside.
That's crazy. I'm telling you, that's something I did when I was in prison. I started a webpage. At the time, it was called Visionary Hustle because that's what I got out. Like, I'm gonna be a coach. I'm gonna be a life coach.
Yeah,
I'm gonna teach people how to manifest their vision and be the boss of their mission. So
right.
I started a company called Visionary Hustler, and from the inside, I would just like you did. I would do the blogs. I'm just like you. I'm a quote person, and it's good. It's good that we're quote because once I got into speaking and I took speaking lessons, they said having quotes is to put quotes in your stockpile because you can always start a speech off with a quote, and you can always finish your speech off with a quote. So yeah,
Absolutely. People
most definitely.
connect with them, you know?
Oh yes, yes they do. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story with us, everything that you've been
Having
through.
me.
I really wish you the best and great wishes from here on out and everything that you're doing. If I can help you out any kind of way, just let me know. Like if you need help with the public speaking and formulating speeches and everything like that, just email me. I'll be mentoring. I just got through mentoring the girl. I've been mentoring this lady for the last 6 months. She came in a group last week and presented a speech. That was one of her like her final, but she got another final coming up. So yeah,
Mhm.
any way that I can help, feel free to reach out
Right.
to me.
Thank you.
On Facebook, join our reentry support group. We got a lot of great people in this group. They can give you pointers and anything that you need help with and disconnect. I mean,
Yeah.
through this group and on LinkedIn, I ran into a lot of people that's in our field that's looking to help one another out, whether it's giving us a chance to go out and speak and share our story, whether it's giving us tips on how to market and promote your book or speaker tips. We got everybody in this group, so feel free to join the group and share what you have to share, and others will share it back as well.
Absolutely.
All right. So thanks a lot for coming on the reentry journey. Again, do you want to let people know the name of the book, name of the website, where they can find you at on social media?
Yeah. So we'll plant your energies on Facebook and Instagram. And then the name of the book is Plant Your Energy, Face Your Demons, and Transform Your Life. And you could check out the website at plantyourenergy.life.
And there you have it. Once again, we want to thank Miss Cheryl Armstrong for coming on the Reentry Journey podcast, sharing her story. Make sure y'all go check out the book. She
Yeah.
tell you where to get it at. Check out the website. Follow her on Instagram. She says she don't know how to work it just quite yet,
A little bit.
but follow on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and Facebook as well. Follow her business pages as well. This is Kardell Sims. This is another night of the reentry journey. Once again, like the song said that came on in the beginning, we gonna make it. Most definitely, we are gonna make it. We got each other. When you don't feel like you have nobody else, we got each other. Come to the reentry support group. Always reach out to somebody. We're here to support each other because we know the journey and we know what the journey takes. So once again, thank you, Ms. Cheryl Armstrong, for coming
Thank you.
on. And this wraps up another episode of the reentry journey. Good night. Everyone have a safe night and a blessed tomorrow. I see y'all next week. No, I won't see you next week. I'll see you Wednesday. We're coming back with another guest on Wednesday. So again, thank you again, Miss Cheryl Armstrong. You have a great night.
You
Like I
too.
said, I wish you success from everything that you're doing. And
Thank
please
you.
reach out. Let's connect. You
Absolutely.
never know what we can make happen.
That's right.
All right. Y'all
Yeah.
have a good night.
Night.